Rainbow Mika gained a strong cult fanbase after appearing in Street Fighter Alpha 3, and she managed to hold on to her fanbase with only that one major appearance under her belt. It had been quite the long wait to see Mika return to the series, and she was showered with approval upon the release of her trailer for Street Fighter V. Once the game came out though, it was clear to see a few characters were poorly directed, or at the very least not handled to the expectations of the fans. Let's see if Mika was one of those short-changed characters, or if she managed to get through it without too much trouble. Right, first things first. Design-wise, Mika looks pretty much on point to how she looked back in her Alpha appearance. Any revisions to her design were minor at best, such as the love hearts being removed from her top. It does seem some areas of her costume had been trimmed away to allow more skin to show, and while this might be perceived by some as a cheap way to heighten Mika's sex appeal, I actually find it to be fitting of her design. It doesn't feel out of place with what she was wearing before. The overall look hasn't been drastically changed to bring out that sex appeal, and in her line of work, outfits like this are standard anyway. Nothing is broken here and it works, so good job. That said, Capcom did to Mika what they done to Jury, and that is backpedal some of the lewdness before release. Prior to Street Fighter V releasing, Mika's super move showed her slapping her ass before initiating the attack, but by the time the game came out, Capcom had edited the animation so that the camera angle no longer pans down, cropping out the butt slap entirely, and I'm like, fam, why? What is with this mentality? Apparently, Capcom wanted to tone down the sexiness a bit for the esports live coverage. Street Fighter V is screened on some mainstream channels, and according to what I read, they felt the over-the-top fan service wouldn't sit well with those crowds. I mean, fair points indeed, but bruv, seriously, it's video games. The only people watching Street Fighter V on ESPN are the same cats that were going to watch it on their PCs but couldn't be bothered to walk over to their computer desk. And shit, if Capcom ever makes a new Darkstalkers game, I'm worried they're going to nerf Felicia's tits right out the gates. Anyways, design-wise, Mika's pretty secure, and there's nothing odd about the appearance. Capcom got her looking correct, and she successfully made the jump to 3D without losing any of her appeal in the process. The only small nitpick I have is her hair. Back in the Alpha series, Mika's ponytails were sharp and angular, sticking out from the sides of her head like the wings on an aeroplane. I think to fit in with the new graphics engine, Capcom decided to calm her hairstyle down a bit so that now they appear more streamlined. It's okay, I mean it's not ruining the character at all, this is just a small minor bit of critique, and her current hairstyle doesn't ruin Mika in the slightest. So, story-wise, what does Mika bring to the table in Street Fighter V? The answer is not a lot. But before you start thinking I'm writing her off, understand for a character like Mika, doing not a lot is perfectly fine. She's the type of character that doesn't need to be wrapped up in Shadaloo experiments or Illuminati world conquest plans. She's just a wrestler living her dream. That's all there is to her, and that's all she really needs. During her solo story in Street Fighter V, she meets up again with Zangief, and the two go on a brief martial arts journey to find Mika's muscle spirit. And what is muscle spirit? Well, it's the spirit you have while using your muscles. It pretty much gives the description away in the title, really. Anyways, Mika is super excited to be under Zangief's tutelage for this trip and works hard to improve her own skills as well as impress her idol. The trip concludes with Mika finding her so-called spirit and earning a place at Zangief's side as a comrade in arms. It's also worth mentioning that Karin is sponsoring Mika's wrestling career now, and Mika often spends a fair amount of her time around the Kanzuki estate. During the main story, A Shadow Falls, Shadaloo were making their move on world domination and sent agents to the Kanzuki estate. With Mika present at the estate, and Karin mobilizing a counterattack, Mika tagged along to assist her with her plans. Mika doesn't do much within the story aside from playing the support role to whatever Karin's doing, but as I said earlier, this is perfectly fine for a character in Mika's position. Mika has her own little harmless adventures, then acts in the role of a supporting character when the heavier stories start to occur. With Mika never being involved in any previous major plot lines, there was no high expectations for her to continue doing such a thing either, so there was little chance of fans being disappointed by her minimal role in this story. I do have one tiny complaint however, and thankfully this has nothing to do with Mika herself. Her mentor Harmageddon was a complete no-show in her storyline. I understand Mika is on a martial arts journey with her idol Zangief, and it's all very well and good that Zangief is teaching Mika the ways of muscle spirit, but guys, come on man, Harmageddon gave Rainbow Mika her name. That's her OG mentor, and the fact that she didn't appear anywhere in the damn thing kinda bugs me a bit. I'd understand if Capcom didn't want to spend time and money making a 3D character model for a character that wasn't going to feature much in the game, and that's fair enough, but Harmageddon didn't even get a cameo in the solo story artwork. That would have sufficed. In fact, I don't even think Mika mentions Harmageddon by name at all throughout the entire story. I was further let down when Capcom released some art of Harmageddon outside of Street Fighter V, and it showed the character looking like some half-assed Sombra cosplayer. How on earth did we get from this to this? Fuck's sake. Anyways, that was a bloody shame, but as I said, it's nothing that directly affects Mika herself, and therefore the character isn't damaged in any shape or form because of it. Mika's design is there. The personality, the energy, and the devotion to her dream is still intact. Her role in the story didn't take any risks and kept her playing her position neatly. Any and all progress made to the character's story arc was just enough to show us that the character had grown from who she originally was, but not enough to take her through too much of a change. She's still a wrestler, she's still meeting fighters all over the world, and she's still just living her life in the way we expected her to. Mika was one of the few characters to be handled just right in this game. She didn't do more than she needed to, and she remained faithful to the type of character she had been back in Alpha 3. By being reintroduced into the series, not only has she been able to please her old fans, but no doubt she has made a whole bunch of new ones too.